I'm Katie Wilson, though most people know me as Katie. At 27, I never thought I'd end up in the middle of my family's most shocking controversy. From a wealthy background, courtesy of my grandfather's vast company, I've always been the odd one out. My sister Heather was the star of the family, and I was simply the letdown. When Grandpa Lawrence died, I figured the will reading would be awkward, but I had no clue what was coming. If you're seeing this, drop a comment with your location. Give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe to find out how that day transformed my world. Living in Beacon Hill, one of Boston's richest areas, ought to have been ideal. Our family residence was a gorgeous 5-bedroom colonial house with an immaculate yard and a sight of the Charles River. On the surface, the Wilsons seemed to possess everything. My dad, Howard Wilson, was a well-known investment banker handling accounts for some of New England's richest clans. My mom, Diane Wilson, was a business lawyer focused on corporate mergers and buyouts. They formed the ideal dynamic duo, always dressed flawlessly, always uttering the perfect words at the appropriate gatherings. But the real foundation of our family's fortune stemmed from my grandfather, Lawrence Wilson. Grandpa Lawrence was a self-built entrepreneur who created Wilson Enterprises from scratch back in the 1960s. Beginning with one hardware shop, he grew into building projects, then property development, and eventually spread into multiple sectors, like tech and medical services. When I came along, Wilson Enterprises was a big name in Boston and had more than 2,000 employees. Right from childhood, I realized I stood apart from my relatives. As they chatted about investment returns and company takeovers during meals, I'd be doodling patterns on my napkin or fantasizing about museum shows. My sister, Heather, older by 4 years, was the ideal Wilson successor. She inherited our dad's knack for figures and our mom's keen logical thinking. At age 12, she could break down stock patterns and funding plans. Me? I could describe all about techniques from the Renaissance era or how colors affect emotions, subjects that prompted my parents to share concerned looks. Heather pursued the flawless path my parents designed for her. She went to Phillips Academy for secondary school, then Harvard for her undergrad in business, and after that Wharton for her master's in business administration. She started at Wilson Enterprises at 24 and advanced rapidly, reaching the role of strategic planning director by 30. She wed Bradley Thompson, whose dad was a colleague of our father's, in an extravagant ceremony spotlighted in Boston Magazine. Her entire existence was planned and carried out with accuracy. In contrast, I fought to carve out my spot in a household that prized monetary achievement over everything. I performed decently in academics, but my passions never matched my parents' hopes. When I declared my desire to pursue art history at university, my dad genuinely chuckled, assuming it was a prank. Once he saw I meant it, the letdown on his expression crushed me. "Art won't cover your expenses, Kathleen," he stated. "You have to be realistic. The planet doesn't favor idealists." In spite of their opposition, I joined NYU for art history, partly covered by a grant I'd earned through effort. My parents declined to cover my complete fees to instill accountability, despite fully supporting Heather's pricier Wharton studies. Grandpa Lawrence was the sole supporter of my choice. Without informing my parents, he assisted with rent for a small place in New York and sometimes sent cash for painting materials. "Chase your dreams, Katie," he'd say in our regular calls. "Wealth means nothing if you dread waking up daily." Following college, as Heather advanced in the company ranks at Wilson Enterprises, I worked as an assistant in a modest art space in Manhattan, earning just enough for housing and loans. My parents viewed my job pick as more evidence of my poor judgment. Each family event turned into a chance for them to highlight the difference between Heather's triumphs and my hardships. Heather sealed the Anderson agreement, my mom would declare with pride at Thanksgiving. $10 million in earnings for the firm. Then she'd face me with a forced grin. "And how's your minor gallery position faring, Kathleen?" They never grasped that success for me wasn't about cash. I adored being amid artwork, finding fresh creators, aiding in organizing displays that touched folks deeply. But in the Wilson clan, if you weren't generating big money, you were flunking. The tension in our bond worsened when I quit the gallery to attempt succeeding as a creator myself. I'd been producing blended media works on the side, and some neighborhood coffee spots showed my pieces. When a minor work sold for $300, I experienced more satisfaction than ever before. It was the initial income from my pure imagination. My dad wasn't thrilled. $300. Heather earns that in 60 minutes. When will you mature and enter reality? What pained me most was they never visited my displays, not even once. Heather came by once during a New York work meeting. She examined my artworks with a confused look, obviously not getting it, but attempting kindness her way. "They're quite vibrant," she commented, before shifting to her latest advancement. Grandpa Lawrence differed. Even in his 80s, he journeyed from Boston to New York twice for my gallery shows. He'd linger before each item, absorbing it fully, truly grasping my intent. He acquired my top piece, a blended media assemblage depicting family ties intricacy, and placed it in his office where my parents couldn't miss it. "You've got talent, Katie," he said. "Don't allow anyone persuade you differently, particularly not your folks." As I hit my late 20s, my money troubles intensified. The creative field is infamously tough to enter, and I took extra gigs to survive. I served as a coffee maker, pet sitter, and independent designer, all while crafting and pushing my art. Meanwhile, my parents stuck to their strict affection method, denying financial aid, even for hospital costs after pneumonia put me in care for 3 days. "You've chosen your path," my mom remarked. "Now face the results." Yet they kept funding Heather's opulent life, gifting her and Bradley a vacation house in the Hamptons for their 5th year together, and ensuring she got every edge in her role at Wilson Enterprises. The difference in treatment was blatant, but when I raised it, they brushed off my worries. "When you begin wise decisions, we'll handle you as a mature person," was my dad's usual reply. By 27, I'd nearly abandoned seeking my parents' acceptance or insight. I concentrated on my bond with Grandpa Lawrence, who stayed my strongest backer and the only kin who valued me for myself, not my input to the family heritage. Grandpa Lawrence's well-being started fading about a year prior to his passing. At 87, he'd always been amazingly active and quick-witted, but minor strokes began affecting him. As things worsened, I traveled to Boston more often. Despite my limited funds, I couldn't stand missing time with him. His large home in Brookline felt more welcoming than my parents' place. It overflowed with volumes, artwork, and souvenirs from global trips. Unlike my parents' sterile display-like house, Grandpa's felt cozy and inhabited. On visits, we'd relax in his sunny room, viewing the yard, sipping tea, and engaging in talks that fed my spirit. "Share your newest creation," he'd request, eyes still sparkling with curiosity despite his weakening frame. I'd display drawings and images of my art, and he'd pose insightful queries on my ideas and methods. Occasionally, he'd recount his life's tales, about starting his firm from zero, about encountering my grandmother, Evelyn, who died before my birth. "She created art too, you know," he shared once. "Not for pay, but her watercolor paintings could stir deep emotions. Your dad never got that side of her, too sensible even young." As his condition declined, talks sometimes turned enigmatic. Roughly 6 months before death, in an afternoon chat, he grasped my hand weakly and uttered something confusing. "I've been observing, Katie. For years I've watched and noted things. Don't fret, I'll set it right." When I questioned him, he grinned and switched topics. Similar mysterious remarks appeared a few times in his last months, but he wouldn't explain despite my urging. The news arrived on a Tuesday morning in April. I was in my cramped Brooklyn flat, readying for an interview at a fresh gallery in Chelsea. My dad's tone was unusually quiet. Grandfather died peacefully overnight. The caregiver discovered him this morning. Though I'd braced for this for months, it struck like a punch. I dropped onto my used couch, tears flowing. "The service is Friday," he went on, all formal. "I want you here Thursday evening for the pre-funeral family meal." I muttered I'd arrive before ending the call. The following hour I wept, not only for losing my grandfather, but for losing the one who truly recognized and embraced me. The days after blurred. I charged my card max for a rushed flight to Boston and a proper dark outfit for the event. Arriving at my parents' home Thursday night, the gap between our lives felt extreme. I pulled my worn bag up the spotless drive, conscious of my scratched shoes and the rip in my jacket I hadn't fixed. Heather and Bradley were present, both polished in costly attire. My sister offered a brief, routine embrace as my mom scowled at my look. "You could have tried harder, Kathleen," she greeted. "This is a key family event." That night's meal was strained. My dad and Bradley talked shop, while my mom and Heather covered funeral plans with little say from me. Despite my tight connection to Grandpa, I caught them swapping knowing looks multiple times, especially on estate topics. Post-dinner, I overheard my parents in the kitchen as I cleared plates. "Franklin Pierce phoned again on the will matter," my dad whispered. He demands sticking to Lawrence's precise directions. We expected this, my mom answered. Howard, ensure it follows our scheme. No shocks. They spotted me and switched abruptly. That evening, trying to rest in my former room, now a plain guest space, I pondered their talk. I knew Grandpa had wealth but hadn't dwelled on his will or assets. I thought Heather would claim most, given her company role, and that was okay. I hoped for a minor gift, perhaps books or art he knew I cherished. The funeral morning was chilly and wet, matching my heavy heart. Many attended, showing Grandpa's respect in the area. Colleagues, pals, and kin packed the venue. I sat flanked by parents in front, holding tears as speakers praised Grandpa's business skills and donations. No one noted his book love, witty humor, or hidden jazz interest, things that made him dear to me. Post-burial family lawyer Franklin Pierce neared, a slim, grave man who'd served my grandfather decades. The will session is tomorrow at 10 in Lawrence's residence, he said. He gave clear orders on its conduct. That evening at parents' home, Heather trapped me in the hall by my room. Her flawless face showed false pity that didn't touch her gaze. Just FYI, she said sweetly but sharply, don't build hopes for tomorrow. Grandfather was explicit on preserving the company heritage. He and I talked often about Wilson Enterprises' future. Too drained emotionally to respond, I said, I don't want the cash, Heather, I miss him. She tapped my arm patronizingly. Sure you do. Recall some of us earned our share through years of work, not just appearing when easy. Her words hurt, unfairly so. I'd seen Grandpa more in his end years than her, but fatigue stopped arguments. I entered my room, shut the door, and spent a sleepless night reflecting on Grandpa and tomorrow. Next day, we met in Grandpa Lawrence's office for the will. A lovely space mirroring his character. Tall shelves lined walls with rare books and favorites. His large wooden desk ruled one side, comfy leather seats curved facing it. Behind the desk hung prized items. Family pics, degree, business honors, and my blended media work he'd bought from my initial big show. Franklin Pierce sat at the desk, organizing documents precisely. Parents claimed center seats, Heather and Bradley Wright. I sat left of Mom, feeling misplaced in my basic dark dress amid their fancy suits. Only other was Gerald Simmons, Grandpa's 60-year pal, next to me. Thanks for attending, Pierce started officially. Lawrence detailed how to handle this. I'll read the will as written, no changes. He donned glasses and started legal intro. Then minor gifts, charity donations, presents to long-term workers, and a large amount to Gerald for 6 decades of real companionship. Then the surprise. To my granddaughter Heather Wilson Thompson, I bequeath $10 million, Pierce read, for her use in upholding the Wilson business tradition she's shown skill in advancing. Heather beamed victoriously as parents approved. Dad squeezed Heather's hand, pride clear. Mom clapped once joyfully. Well earned, dear, she told Heather. To my granddaughter Kathleen Wilson, Pierce went on, my pulse quickened. This was it. Maybe funds to start as an artist or art he knew I liked. I leave this envelope to be handled by her dad, Howard Wilson, as administrator, Pierce ended. Silence fell. An envelope, that's all. Air seemed gone from the space. Dad cleared throat rose. As manager of this part, he said coldly, I must tell Kathleen the envelope has no cash gift. My dad and I talked this extensively pre-death. He concurred with our view Kathleen requires learning duty and independence. I couldn't fathom it. Heather got $10 million, I an envelope sans funds, and Dad swayed my ill grandfather I merited zilch. This is best for you, Kathleen, Mom added sweetly. You've chosen badly for years. Time to learn self-earning like grandfather. Heather proved herself. You haven't. Tears threatened, but I held them. The shame of enduring family deeming me unworthy was nearly too much. Heather smirked openly. To confirm, Bradley said, lawyer mode on, this means Kathleen gets no company shares too, right? Before Dad replied, Franklin Pierce cut in. There's more in the will for Kathleen specifically, he said sternly. Lawrence ordered this part read to Kathleen privately only. Dad's face soured. That's unusual, as administrator. With respect, Mr. Wilson, Pierce interrupted, I'm adhering to your dad's clear legal orders. He specified this for Kathleen alone first. He faced me. Miss Wilson, remain after others depart for the private section. Mom's nails gripped chair arm. This concerns family. We all should hear Kathleen's part. Pierce stayed firm. These are Lawrence's binding orders. I request all but Kathleen exit now. After protests and debates, family and Gerald left, Dad vowing lawyer calls, Mom glaring at me. Door shut, alone with Franklin Pierce, I exhaled deeply. Sorry for the scene, Miss Wilson, Pierce said, softening. Your grandfather predicted this, hence the will's setup. I don't get it, I said, still stunned. Did Dad really persuade Grandpa to exclude me? Pierce took off glasses, rubbed nose. The reverse, in fact. What I'll reveal was set by your grandfather over 5 years. He ensured secrecy till now. He fetched a sealed note from bag, my name and Grandpa's unique script. He gave it. Read this first, his words. Shaking, I opened, unfolded thick pages. Dearest Katie, it started. If reading, I've gone to next journey. Don't mourn overly. I've lived fully, but regret not witnessing the amazing woman you'll be. Years watching your parents and sister treat you. I've seen them ignore your drive and skill, judging worth by money and status. Early, I saw you're unique, like grandmother Evelyn from me. She showed life beyond finances and deals, though your dad missed that. I've noted your resolve to forge ahead despite no backing. Your strength and genuineness made me prouder than any transaction. What family ignores, what I hid, even from Dad, is over 20 years, I've quietly amassed one of New England's top private modern art sets. This set, worth about $25 million, I give wholly to you. Franklin holds full list and will aid your choices. Also, I created separate firm Evelyn's Legacy, after grandmother. This holds a fine 3-level structure in central Boston bought 5 years back. Base level remodeled as exhibit area, upper as upscale home and workshop. All yours now. A trust exists your parents can't touch or run. This covers daily costs and gallery launch. Franklin has info to access. One more, Katie. Last 3 years, I've secretly bought your art via agents. These anchor my set as they resonate deeply. You possess great skill, now resources to share it globally. Family may rage. They might fight the will or push sharing. Hold strong. This your heritage, not theirs. I told Franklin to protect my desires fiercely if contested. Recall real riches aren't cash, but zeal, truth, and bravery to craft your route. I love you, dear granddaughter. Create your unique tune. All love, Grandpa Lawrence. Done reading, tears poured. I gazed at Franklin Pierce, patient. Is this true? I murmured. He affirmed, absolutely. Your grandfather planned meticulously. Art set under hidden company, Dad unknown. Property via another entity. All legal, hard to dispute. Why not inform me alive? To shield from family push, Pierce said. He knew if parents learned, they'd try swaying him or press you to refuse. This ensures you get his intent. Pierce showed portfolio with Boston building photos, layouts for exhibit and home. He detailed finances. Trust gives $10,000 monthly living, plus $200,000 start for gallery. Structured for decade, expecting self-support then. Building worth $7 million alone, Pierce added. Art insured $25 million. With trust, your share top sisters notably. I was stunned. Hour ago, family shamed me, made me worthless. Now learning grandfather secretly set me for dreams. One additional, Pierce said, pulling journal from case. Your grandfather maintained this last 3 years. It records inheritance, thoughts, and reasons. He wanted you to have it. Taking journal, Pierce grew grave. Brace yourself, Miss Wilson. Family learning this won't please. Grandfather expected contests. I'm ready to uphold his desires, but it might turn nasty. I pictured parents' reactions, Heather's smirk gone. Part wanted to rush out, flaunt it. But wiser part from grandfather's lessons, new dignity over vengeance. How to move. I asked, squaring shoulders. Your grandfather left to you, Pierce replied. Tell now or process first. Deep breath. They're outside fuming. Let's finish. Pierce agreed, valuing choice. Fine, me explain or you? Better from you, I said, officially. He nodded, headed to door, before turned. Your grandfather trusted you immensely, Miss Wilson. He said often you inherited his inventive soul, if not business smarts. Then he opened to confront family. Family rushed in as Pierce opened. Dad charged first, red-faced. Enough already, he barked. Any secret setups my dad made I deserve knowing as estate manager. Mom followed, Heather and Bradley close. Gerald lingered in entry. Pierce returned to desk, professional again. I stayed seated, holding letter and journal, feigning calm I lacked. With all back, Pierce stated officially. I can finish Lawrence Wilson's will reading for Miss Kathleen Wilson. It's merely an envelope, Mom cut in scornfully. Howard clarified already. Lawrence agreed Kathleen must learn duty over handouts. Pierce coughed. In truth, Mrs. Wilson, the gift exceeds initial reveal. He detailed my full inheritance. Art set, central building with exhibit and home, trust. As he talked, family's faces shifted from scorn to stun to fury. Outrageous, Dad yelled post-finish. My dad wouldn't do this sans me. Must be late ad when unsound. Opposite, Pierce said coolly. Arrangements from 5 years, updated often, latest 6 months ago. I hold vast records of instructions, including videos of meetings with clear, coherent wishes. Mom paled, face stiff in shock. As it hit, she yelled. Totally unjust. How could you, Kathleen? How could you trick a frail elder to take what's ours for those who earned it? I learned just now, I said, voice found. Grandpa kept secret. Deceiver, Heather snapped. You always victimized, acted superior and unique. You've schemed on grandfather years with poor artist tailies. Untrue. Gerald spoke from door suddenly. Lawrence and I covered Katie's inheritance plans often. He was fully lucid and chose because he trusted Katie's ability and nature. Dad spun on Gerald. You knew silent. What friend? A faithful one, Gerald steady. Lawrence sought my silence, I honored as you should is now, Howard. This won't hold, Dad proclaimed. I'll fight the will. No chance my dad meant most fortune for a failing artist sans business skill. Actually, Bradley added, mind assessing with videos and years-long setup, contesting tough and costly. Mom glared at him. Which team you on, Bradley? Dispute grew, claims thrown. Mom labeled me greedy and sly. Dad vowed suits on me and Pierce. Heather swung from unfair tears to slurs at me. Throughout, I sat silent, recalling grandfathers, hold firm. This your heritage, not theirs. First time I sensed inner power untouched by their scorn or rage. In a yell pause, I rose. I didn't seek this gift. But Grandpa Lawrence trusted me and dreams when you didn't. He valued me beyond finances and successes. He was clearly